For an island nation like Jamaica, the horizon brings both incredible beauty and, well, a whole lot of peril. They're right on the front lines of our changing climate, where just one storm can literally reshape a country's future overnight. But what if survival wasn't just about luck or weathering the storm? What if it was about having a blueprint to outsmart it?
Okay, let's dive right in. For a country like Jamaica, sitting smack in the middle of Hurricane Alley, you might be surprised to hear that a simple government document can be one of its most powerful tools. It's more than just paper. It's a shield. It's a plan. And that really brings us to the core question here, one that communities all over the world are wrestling with. How do you actually plan for the future when catastrophe isn't just a remote possibility, but a constant, looming threat?
To really understand Jamaica's answer, we first have to get a handle on the sheer scale of the challenge they're up against. And believe me, it is so much more than just hurricanes.
What's really striking here is just the sheer variety of threats. I mean, this isn't just about bad weather. We're talking about a battle on multiple fronts. Of course, you've got the natural hazard you'd expect, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, but the plan also has to deal with man-made disasters, like cybercrime, which, by the way, cost over 12 billion Jamaican dollars back in 2016. And then you have biological threats like pandemics. Think about how it all connects. A hurricane knocks out the power, which then makes the whole country vulnerable to a cyber attack. It's a domino effect.
And these aren't just abstract risks on a chart. Take earthquakes. Between 2013 and 2018, the number of quakes people actually felt in Jamaica was climbing steadily, year after year. That's a really tangible sign of the urgency here. It's like the ground is literally becoming less stable beneath their feet.
So you have all these threats. The crucial question is, what happens when they become reality? Well, the cost isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in lives, in livelihoods. To put the economic risk into perspective, just look at this number. After Hurricane Maria slammed the nearby island of Dominica back in 2017, the damage added up to 226% of its entire GDP. No, that is not a typo. Can you imagine a single event wiping out more than double your country's entire economic output for a year? That's the kind of catastrophic financial threat Jamaica is preparing for.
So when a country has to rebuild, where does all that money go? This chart from Dominica's own post-disaster assessment is incredibly telling. The two biggest costs, by a long shot, are transport and electricity. And it makes sense when you think about it. Those are the arteries of a modern economy. Without roads and power, recovery just grinds to a halt.
But statistics like GDP and infrastructure costs can feel a little distant. What's the real human cost hiding behind these enormous numbers?
With some fascinating research from St. John's University found a direct and frankly devastating link. For a family in Jamaica, the type of material used to build their house, something as basic as whether it's wood or concrete block, can be the single deciding factor in whether a hurricane pushes them into poverty.
And this isn't a small problem. Right now, it's estimated that about 30% of all Jamaican households are living in homes that are not built to withstand a major hurricane. That is almost 1 in every 3 families living right on the edge of disaster.
So, faced with this reality, Jamaica decided it needed more than just a reaction plan. It needed a proactive, long-term blueprint for resilience. Let's take a look at their national strategy. So, what does this blueprint actually look like? Well, it's a really comprehensive, multi-pronged attack. First, they're investing in stronger infrastructure. That's the physical shield. Second, they're building a national risk information platform. Think of that as their data shield, helping them anticipate and model threats. Third, they're integrating their disaster prep and climate change plans. They're not treating them as separate issues anymore. And finally, they're beefing up the organizations on the ground that actually have to manage these crises. It's a truly holistic approach. But a government plan is just one piece of the puzzle. What's really exciting here are the innovative, almost sci-fi models being explored to future-proof the very systems we saw were most vulnerable: power and transport. The old way of thinking about this stuff is pretty clear. A big, centralized power grid is incredibly vulnerable. One hit to a major plant can take down the whole system. The future model, though, is completely different: decentralized, resilient, and integrated. It's a fundamental shift in philosophy. And this really illustrates that shift perfectly. On the left, you've got the current model, a simple one-way flow of power from a plant to your house. Pretty standard. But on the right, you see something completely different, a dynamic, interconnected system where the utility isn't just providing power, it's also managing a fleet of electric vehicles. This new concept is called a mobility utility. So imagine this. The power company doesn't just sell you electricity anymore. It also leases you an electric vehicle. By doing that, it bundles your electricity and your transportation into a single, resilient, and, this is key, mobile energy network.
So how would this actually work in practice? Okay, let's break it down. Step 1. You lease an EV directly from the power company, which gets rid of that high upfront cost. Step 2. Your lease includes a special bundled rate for electricity. Step 3. The utility can then tap into your car's battery to help stabilize the entire grid. It's a concept called vehicle-to-grid. And now for the crucial part. Step 4. After a storm hits and the power's out, that same EV can be used as a mobile power source for your home, or even for critical services like a clinic. Your car literally becomes your backup generator.
But here's the thing. Just as Jamaica is building these incredible solutions for today's threats, the challenges themselves are evolving. New threats are, quite literally, appearing on the horizon.
Just look at this map. That is not a hurricane forming. That is the Great Atlantic Sargassum Belt, a massive floating continent of seaweed that has been growing year after year. When it washes ashore, it chokes the coastlines with this thick, rotting mat that cripples tourism and fishing. It's even clogged the water intakes for desalination plants, threatening the island's fresh water supply.
And threats aren't just coming from the ocean. They're coming from the sky, too. Huge dust clouds from the Sahara Desert are now blowing all the way across the Atlantic. They cause public health problems for sure, but they also coat solar panels, slashing their efficiency, and they gum up the works on wind turbines, the very renewable energy sources that are key to building that resilience in the first place.
This all leads to a really powerful realization, one that's stated perfectly in one of the source documents. It says, resilience is not a destination, but a constant process of adaptation. You can never stop planning, you can never stop innovating, because the challenge never stops changing.
Which leaves us with a final, fascinating question. As Jamaica builds and refines this incredibly comprehensive strategy, from stronger houses to mobile power grids, could its blueprint for survival actually become a global model for resilience in our increasingly uncertain world?